Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. I'm going to be going over all of the books that I read in January and then giving you guys my February TBR. So I read 23 books over the course of January, and to be so honest with you, it was unexpected. It was so unexpected. I did a readathon that I ended up reading, I think, like 9 books for, so it was like half of the books that I read. I had a really good reading month. Every book that I read, for the most part, I really enjoyed. Let me get the stack, hold on. I ended up reading a ton of books like by the same authors. So like I read all of Lynn Painter's books that she has out, aside from The Love Wager, because I'd read that a couple of months ago. I read 2 Frida McFadden books, and then I read a trilogy by Scarlett Avery. So I'm going to go over like the repeat authors that are on this list. First up, I read all on Kindle Limited, the Very it's the Very Trilogy, I think it's called, but I'll put like pictures of them here. It's just about like billionaires basically, and there's different storylines. Obviously, they're 3 different books. They were pretty good. I think I rated all of them like 4 stars. They were pretty solid. They were just very much tea. It was very much giving soap opera, very much giving drama. So I had a fun time with it. The only thing is that they are like really long, and I didn't expect them to be as long as they ended up being, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing. My attention span just is not that long for romance books. But I had fun with them, and yeah, I think they're all like 4 stars. Then I ended up reading Dirty Rich Betrayal and Dirty Rich Betrayal Love Me Forever, and I really liked both of those books. I gave them both 5 stars. I had genuinely so much fun reading them because they're one story. The second one is a continuation of the first book, and they're both like pretty short books. This guy owns this company. He owns this, like, I think it's a law firm. And the girl, she used to work at the law firm, but they also like used to be together. And then they end up breaking up. She goes and works for his like enemy's law firm or whatever. And so throughout the book, you're just like watching them in different timelines, because it's a dual, not even a dual timeline POV. You're just hopping around the timeline of their relationship. And I really freaking liked it. It kind of reminded me of like Magnolia Parks a little bit, in that like the relationship was really toxic, and it wasn't necessarily that they like, I don't know how to explain it. It was just really, I really enjoyed it. I had so much fun with it. It gave me some feels, but it also like, there was spice in it, but it wasn't like too spicy. Honestly, for me, it's like the perfect level of spice, because it's not like pages and pages of it, and you get the gist of it. Like, you understand what's going on, and it doesn't like completely revolve around it, but it's also like there's enough scenes that it makes it like real. I don't know how to explain it, but it was a really solid 2 books that they're getting turned into a book, but like I really enjoyed them. The author is actually the founder of Readers Take Denver, which I found so cool. So yeah, I really enjoyed those. Those were all the books that I like don't have physical copies of that I read through Kindle Unlimited. So there's that. Now we're gonna get into the physical books of the month. So I ended up reading 5 books by Lynn Painter, like all 5 of her books that I hadn't read before. So we'll start with my favorite. I just did a video on my TikTok ranking all of Lynn Painter's books, like by what I like my ranking of them. Betting on You was number 1 for her YA books. There's something about her YA books that just hit different. Like, they're so good. The characters have a lot more depth to them. I feel like it's not necessarily like, it's not just fluff. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just fluff and then romance. Like, these characters are going through it. This follows Bailey and Charlie, and they are both children of divorce. Bailey more so recently than Charlie. Whenever we pick up this story, her mom has introduced a new man into their lives, and she really does not like him. She does not like him at all. And so on one of the flights that she's taking to go in between her mom and her dad's, she meets this guy named Charlie, and they end up sitting next to each other on the flight, and they do not get along. Like, they don't like each other. He thinks she's annoying and stuck up. They really don't like each other. Then they end up seeing each other a couple of years later, and they end up working together. And so they end up like obviously talking more and kind of figuring out that like both of their lives are hard and nobody has it easy. And they end up fake dating at one point. And you guys, I freaking loved this book. This is my favorite YA book Lynn Painter has written. I thought it was going to be better than the movies, and better than the movies is really good, but this is my absolute favorite, and I cannot wait for it to come out in paperback, because I will be getting that one too. I mean, this is like stunning. I love how her books are all, especially like her YA books, they're so colorful. I love it so much. Okay, then I also read The Do-Over, and I really enjoyed this one as well. I don't normally like Groundhog Day books. Okay, also, is that what y'all call it? Like when they have to relive the same day over and over again? Because I've always called them Groundhog Day books. And it came to my attention that like not everybody calls them that. So I went like, what do y'all call it? Because that could be wrong. Like it really could be wrong. It could be something else, but like that's just how I do it. You know what I mean? This follows Emily and Nick. And Emily, she's in high school. Naturally, she thinks she has her life all figured out. Everything is planned and it's not great. Her parents are separated and she has to kind of like grapple with that. And also like just the relationship with her dad isn't super great. But then she wakes up Valentine's Day and she has literally like one of the worst days of her life. Everything that could go wrong does go wrong, and she ends up having to relive that day over and over and over again to try to figure out like how to get out of this time loop and also like how to get her life right. And so along this journey, she ends up meeting Nick. She knew who Nick was because she goes to high school with him. They sit next to each other. I think they're like lab partners or something like that. She's known who he is. She just hasn't really ever like spoken to him before. And so she ends up meeting him on Valentine's Day, the first one, and keeps meeting him throughout Valentine's Day. So then she's starting to think that meeting him is fate and kind of trying to figure out what to do with that. So I genuinely freaking love this book. I don't know why I was hitting it. It's a 5-star read. It's a 5-star read. This is, to me, is a Groundhog Day done right. It's very difficult to do these books and have them not be super repetitive. I didn't find this repetitive at all because she was doing different things every day. So she was trying different things every day to get out of this time loop and to try to figure everything out. So it wasn't like you were going like months and months of her doing the same thing over and over again. So I genuinely enjoyed it. And if you want a YA Groundhog Day book with great romance, great banter with a guy with commitment issues, because I know we love those, it'll be this. Then a fan favorite that I read this month as well was Better Than the Movies. I, again, super enjoyed this book. I found it really sweet and endearing and very nostalgic, very reminiscent of high school. It follows a girl named Liz, and her and her mom had this thing where they watched so many old movies and just watched movies in general, and they really, really found themselves like romanticizing life and just finding all like the little things and happily ever after and all of that stuff. They love everything to do with that. So whenever she loses her mom, she ends up like holding on to that really hard. So she has her happily ever after planned out with this guy that she doesn't really have a relationship with. So she uses her childhood nemesis, Wes, to try to set them up because Wes and this guy are friends, and it's throughout this whole situation that she finds out that like happily ever after means different things and you can't always plan it. So good. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I'm going to give this one 4.5 stars though. It wasn't quite a 5-star for me just because it did feel younger than the other book. Like it's a YA book, but this one felt a little bit more young. That's really the only way that I can describe it than the other two that I read this month. Those two had a more kind of cynical feel to it, if that makes sense. Those tend to be the books that I enjoy more in like the YA genres, but this was just really sweet and endearing, and I had so much fun with it. Then I also read Mr. Wrong Number, which is the first book in the Mr. Wrong Number duet. It's this one and then Love Wager falls after this book. This follows Colin and Olivia sets her apartment on fire, so she has to go live with her brother. Fun fact though, Olivia's brother's best friend is Colin. He's also his roommate. So she ends up going and she's living with her brother, and so she's also technically living with Colin. But the problem is Olivia and Colin do not get along together. They do not like each other. They can't be in the same room without bickering. But then one day she ends up getting this wrong number text. Somebody texts her something funny. Yeah, it's a wrong number, and she doesn't know, neither of them know at first, that they're talking to each other, Colin and Olivia. And so they start talking, they start getting comfortable with each other, and it's like, ooh, I'm kind of digging on you a little bit, you know? And so they start to form this relationship, only to find out that they're talking to each other. And it's really good. And Olivia is also in this. She is not a news reporter, but what do you call that? A blogger, I guess you could say. You get what I'm saying. This was a 4-star. I enjoyed Love Wager more. Okay, I enjoyed Love Wager more. What can I say? I don't think anybody thought that was going to be anything different. I love the Love Wager. That will always be a 5-star book for me. But I'm happy that I read this now so I can say that I completed the whole like duet or whatever. Look at me, accomplishing goals and smashing down my TBR. Not really. And last but not least, we have Accidentally Amy. This is my last book that I read by Miss Lynn Painter this month. I enjoyed this. Now, this could be totally wrong, but from what I've heard, this book started out as not a book. So it started out as emails that she would send her email list, and she would just like send it out chapter by chapter. And then I guess whenever she had her first big book or a couple big books, she ended up binding it up into an actual book. That timeline could be a little bit off. I have no idea, but that's just what I heard. That's just what I heard. So that's just what I'm relaying. Okay. This follows Izzy and Blake, and they bump into each other at a Starbucks, or like a coffee shop, but that's basically Starbucks, because Izzy takes the wrong drink on purpose. She's running late from work. She needs to get to this new job. It's her first day. And so this girl at this coffee shop orders the same drink as her, but whenever they call out her name, she doesn't go up to take the drink. And so Izzy's like, well, we have the same drink. You can just, she can take mine after I leave. I'm just going to grab this one. And their girl's name was Amy. And when she turns around, she bumps into this dude. And this dude, like, he's like, oh my gosh, Shawty Bae? Shawty Bae, my new Shawty. And they end up like exchanging names, and then they see each other again at the gym, and it's this whole thing. But he thinks her name is Amy because of the whole coffee scenario. Only problem is, it's Izzy's boss. So on her first day at work, she goes to work and she's like, oh, funny story, big man. My name is not actually Amy. My name's Izzy. I was just running late. Didn't want to be late for work. You know what I'm saying, big dog. I'm so sorry for whatever that was. And so they end up talking and having a relationship from there. Well, kind of. And I really liked it. I'm giving it a 4 stars. Obviously, it's a little bit rougher. I think this is one of like Lynn's first things that she was working on. Yeah, it was really good. It was really entertaining, very quick read. So if you want a quick, entertaining, good read by Lynn Painter. Okay, then on to my next author that I've read, not necessarily a ton from, but just more than one, Frida McFadden. Okay, if y'all don't know, we're gonna talk for a second, okay? Such real talk right now. Actually, hold on a second. I genuinely love Frida McFadden's writing. I think I own like 9 of her books, and I've read 7 now, and I genuinely, oh my gosh, they're so good. I've never read one that I have not liked, which is really rare for me, for an author to write books that like they're consistently 4 or 5 stars. So I read The Perfect Sun by her, which is really, really good. I rated this a 5 stars. One of my favorites by her, for sure. It follows this family. There's 2 adults, so there's like the mom and the dad, and then there's a son and then a teenage daughter. Well, the son is kind of like crazy. Yeah, and mom knows it, okay? And so she's trying to like protect her son, but also like protect everybody else. And it's just such a creepy, like, fun book. This cover, though, is, like, kind of misleading because you would think that he's, like, young. And that was the one thing that I did not like about this book before picking it up. And the reason why it took me so long, it was because, like, I don't like creepy little children. Okay, some children are cool. They're not creepy. We're fine. But, like, creepy little children, like, he doesn't have hands. So I'm so confused. Like, he has no hands. Like, if you see it, his gloves are detached from, so I don't know what that means, or like why. I don't know what the significance of that is. I don't want to think about it too much because it'll freak me out, but it was a 5-star read. I absolutely loved it. Nobody can tell me anything. Frida McFadden is my homegirl. We're besties now. Okay? She cannot steer me wrong. Then the one that I actually just finished last night was The X by her. I, again, really, really enjoyed this one. This one was a little bit harder to follow just because, like, I don't even know if I can explain this well. This girl named Cassie, she meets this guy and they hit it off really well. Only problem is this guy may or may not have a crazy ex-girlfriend. That's why it's literally called, like, The X. I genuinely did not expect this going into it. I don't know, like, the cover gave me a different vibe, but, like, it was really good. It was real psychological. It was crazy. I gave this one, okay, so it's a 4-star. But I kind of want to give it a 4.5. I think if I read it again, it would be 5 stars just because at first it was kind of hard to follow because there are a lot of characters. It's a bigger cast of characters. And this was the one I had the most fun trying to figure out what happens. Normally with thrillers, I don't do that, and I'll just kind of like watch the story unfold as it unfolds. I'm not trying to like figure out what happens and like guess the ending and stuff like that. That one, I did guess the ending, and I guessed the ending for The Perfect Son. I got that one. Not the very end, but like I guessed the big plot twist for that. I guessed a couple of things about the ex, and it wasn't like so outlandish. Like a lot of people's issues with The Inmate by her is that they're saying how it's like super, like it wouldn't happen, or it's just really unrealistic. To some degree, I can agree with that. But with the ex, it was within the realm of possibility, like everything that happened, but it was just like wild. It was wild. It was so good. If you're looking for a psychological like mind bender, I recommend it. Okay, now getting into the big stack of books that I have. We're just gonna kind of go through them pretty quickly. These are not in any order, by the way. I didn't care to put them in order. I have Taming Saraph by Gigi Sticks. I originally received this as, I think I got an ARC copy of it, like the ebook, but then she sent me the physical book. And so I finally got to it. It took me a while to get to it, but I loved it, okay? It wasn't a 5-star. I'm gonna give it like a 4 stars, but it was really insane. It was insane and unhinged, but like not necessarily in a bad way, just like in a way that's like, oh, you know what I mean? So it follows this girl who spends a lot of her life in captivity. Like these people that have her chained up. She's getting beat, like all this stuff, but she's also being trained to be an assassin. So this guy ends up saving her from the basement that she's stuck in because he is a paid unaliver. And so he like sees her and he's like, oh my gosh, I can't just leave her here. So he ends up taking her, and he's trying to like basically like help her stop being so crazy and feral. And so he's trying to like help her through all of that and help her cope and give her stuff that she can cope with, while also going after the people that did this to her. I would say if you like Haunting Adeline and you like the Mind F series, this is a good one to read. It is a little thick, but the pages aren't like super long. You don't have a ton of text on them, so it goes by pretty quickly. Then I read Satan's Affair by H.D. Carlton. So I didn't know like the actual genre whenever I picked this book up. I had no idea. I just knew that it was H.D. Carlton, and I didn't really know, like, I knew who Sibby was because of Haunting Adeline, but I didn't read Hunting Adeline. I kind of, like, skimmed it a little bit. I might go back and reread, like, the first one and actually read the second one to, like, understand, but this one apparently is more of, like, an erotica, and, like, a horror erotica, and that's not necessarily my favorite genre of books, so I think that if I had liked that genre of books, I probably would have enjoyed this more, but it just wasn't necessarily for me. So I gave it a 3 stars. Again, no fault of the book, really. It's just not my thing. So if you like H.D. Carlton, this is definitely textbook H.D. Carlton. Definitely go for it, but it wasn't necessarily me, if that makes sense. Then I read, very, very quick change of pace here, I read Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. Oh my gosh, this book hurt my heart, okay? 5 stars. I'm just gonna let y'all know that right now. I gave it a 5 stars. I genuinely loved this book. I feel like I had such a good reading month. Like, a lot of the books that I read, I genuinely enjoyed. Like, there were only a couple, I think, that I rated 3 stars. So it follows this girl and this guy. He is her brother-in-law. Okay, well, soon to be brother-in-law. Her sister and him, they're engaged, right? And one night they are all out together, like the 2 sisters and him. Cora's the FMC and Dean's the MMC. Cora and Dean, they end up like being in one spot together, and they get abducted. I want to say half of the book takes place while they're in captivity. And so they're trying to figure out like how to get out of this. But the thing is, before they got abducted, they did not like each other. Like, they really could not stand to be together for very long. The only reason why they did was because of Cora's sister. And so it's obviously a very tough situation for them regardless. But like, then you add on to it, like, you don't necessarily trust this guy. You don't like this girl. Like, it's bad. Okay. They're not in a good spot. And then they end up getting out of captivity. And then it turns into them trying to deal with, you know, this sudden like assimilation back into reality in their normal lives, as well as dealing with this trauma bond that they have with each other. I had never heard what this book like was about before I picked it up. Nobody had described it to me. Nobody like told me what it was about. So I was going into it not expecting to be assaulted emotionally, and I definitely was. It's amazing. I definitely recommend reading it, but it hurts. Then I also read Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. This was a 5-star read. I genuinely loved this book. If you don't know, it follows 2 unalivers who unalive other people who unalive people, like serial unalivers. Yeah, they unalive those people. Yeah, anyways, it was really good. It was really good. All the gross scenes that, if you've heard about this book, like, you know, some seriously nasty and depraved gross things in here. And so a lot of it was funny, but like some of it was just like disgusting. But I really, really enjoyed this. Brynne is a G at making you laugh, but also like in the most awkward, inopportune times, if that makes sense. Like there are so many scenes where I'm like, I really don't want to laugh right now because this is kind of like nasty or not great. But there's also like there's this depth to the characters because they're not all, it's not just like a dark romance, and it's not like a rom-com, obviously, but it's like some kind of form of the two, but it's also like, you can tell that there's deeper stuff happening with the characters, and it's so good. It's so good. If you have not read it yet, please go read it. I'm so excited for Leather and Lark. Like, y'all have no idea. I'm sure if you like loved Butcher and Blackbird, you have some idea. Anyways, then I also read Broken Bonds. Then I also read Broken Bonds by J. Bree. Okay. This was another one where like I had heard people saying that they really enjoyed it, but nobody told me like what it was about. So I kind of went into it very, very blind. I was assuming that this was going to be like all smut and no really like plot or storyline. And there wasn't like a super strong plot, but it also, I feel like it was just setting up for a lot of smut, if that makes sense. So in this world, it's like a dystopian world where you have like the normal society, but then you also have the resistance who's going against what the government is doing, what everybody's doing. And our main character, she's what they call like a central bond. So she is the central, and then there's like bonds with a bunch of other people. And bonds is just like fated mates, basically. She ends up leaving this, before she goes into university or wherever she's gonna go to meet all of her bonds, before that happens, she leaves, she dips. She's like, I'm not living this life, I don't want to be here, catch y'all on the flip. Well, while she's out, the resistance ends up finding her and like snatching her up, but we don't know why, and we don't know like what happened to her. And so we pick up when they have caught her, they found her, they caught her, and take her back. So she has to go, and she's meeting her bonds now, except they're not necessarily happy with her because they think that she just like dipped on them and didn't like have any care about them. I'm talking a lot. Anyways, and so it turns into this whole, like, she's trying to start this life or get into this life, get used to this life that she has never known, because she's only, like, she went from her family to being on her own completely to now being inside of this university with bonds that she has no like idea who to trust and who not to trust and all that. It was an interesting read. It was very interesting. I'm gonna give it a 3 stars. Like I said, I was expecting it because it is like, there's supposed to be more smut and stuff and like throughout the rest of the series. This one had no real like smut scenes, which was, I found really interesting, and I actually really enjoyed because it gave me a time to assimilate to the world and to like get used to the world that J. Bree was like setting up and everything. So I enjoyed it. I liked it. It just wasn't like my favorite, just because the world building was a little bit weak, I felt like. Then I also read a fan favorite, I know, The Ritual by Chantal Tessier. I had so much fun reading this, and here's the thing, like, everybody who said because I didn't enjoy Credence, I was not going to enjoy this, I think misunderstood the reason why I didn't like Credence. I didn't like Credence not because of like the spice or because anything that having to do with that, because I really do like Penelope Douglas's writing, and the spice wasn't the issue. It was the whole step family aspect. There is no step family scenes in here, so I didn't have any issue with this book. There was some questionable things, but I feel like that's every dark romance. So I feel like being nitpicky with that is not very like smart or genuine, just because like it's dark romance. But like, it was a 5-star read. It was a 5-star read. If you have not seen my TikTok about it, I really, really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 5 stars. I was thinking it was going to be something very, very different. Like with the upside down cross, I was thinking it was going to be like, there's going to be some questionable stuff, okay, about my Lord and Savior. And there wasn't really. So I didn't have any issues with that. But apparently The Sinner, which is next, is supposed to be darker, and so I'm scared. Then I also read King of Wrath by Anna Huang. I did this for a video that's not out yet. I read the book, but it's not out yet. I have to finish my last 2 books for the video, but I enjoyed it. I'm giving this one a 3-star, okay? I liked it. It didn't make like a huge impression on me, but I really liked Dante. Is that how you say his name? It's like an arranged marriage type deal. My back is hurting, so I have to sit up, but it's like an arranged marriage type deal. Really like it. Dante was a little, como se dice, toxic, which we love toxic men. So like this follows Vivian and Dante, and they end up getting arranged to be married, and she moves in with him, except they don't really like each other. There is no like real feelings there. Anna Huang things happen after that. Like I said, I genuinely enjoyed it. I didn't have any issues with it. Like I said, it just wasn't like super strong emotions about it. I'm realizing now how many dark romance books I've read this month, and no wonder my brain kind of hurts. Then I also read Where I Belong by J. Daniels. I have to do my review for this, so I might post this one today. I gave it a 3 stars. Okay, this was really just kind of like, I want to say 70% smut, and like the rest of it is kind of like bits and pieces of a plot line, which isn't necessarily bad. It's not a bad thing. Like, it's readable and it was enjoyable. Like, obviously I finished reading it, and it's on Kindle Unlimited. I went through it pretty quickly. So it follows Mia and Benjamin, and Mia, her best friend's brother is Benjamin, except Benjamin was like her bully growing up. Like, he was so mean to her. He did not like her, and he just was mean to her. So she goes to visit Mia for the summer, but she doesn't want to see Benjamin because she's like, the last time I saw you, like, you were mean to me. And so she decides that she is not going to go home a virgin, and she goes to a bar to like try to take care of that little thing she sees as a problem, which like isn't a problem. So if you feel like it is, trust me, it's not. Okay, nobody's gonna judge you, and I think that's a really cool thing. Just wanted to throw that out there. Okay. And she ends up having a one-night stand with this guy, and this guy turns out to be Benjamin. And then, so whenever she like goes and actually sees Mia, and then Mia's brother comes out, she's like, oh my gosh, I've made a grave mistake. Like I said, it was a 3 stars. It was enjoyable. There were just some things about the plot that got a little, wanky, but I enjoyed it. I'm gonna read the second one because I think there's like 6 books in this series, and I know J. Daniels has written some books that like a lot of people genuinely love, and I did like her writing. Like, it was super easy to get through. I just think I'll like probably one of the other storylines more. Okay, then I read Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. This was just kind of like a tester read. I wanted to get something in that was quick. I had bought this at Books A Million because everybody was like raving about the series, and not in like an ironic way. They were raving about it in a very much unironic way, and so it was a 3 star. I'm gonna leave it there. It wasn't bad, but it definitely was not my cup of tea. Then I also read Powerless by Lauren Roberts. Everybody was wanting me to read this book, and I read it towards the beginning of the month for my video. If you guys want to see all of my thoughts and reactions to it, I'll put like the thumbnail somewhere on the screen. But I ended up giving it a 4.75 stars. I genuinely really liked this book. I loved Kai. I loved the other one. Who was the other brother? I really liked Kit. And I really liked the book. The only reason why I didn't get a 5 stars for me was because the first 30% of the book, the writing was a little iffy for me. And so it kept like pulling me out of the book. That was the only issue that I had with it. Everything else, like the connection between Peyton and Kai, so good. I really enjoyed it. If you don't know what it's about, it's kind of difficult to explain because it's a fantasy, but it follows this girl named Peyton, and she is living in a world where the king is wanting to unalive everybody who does not have powers, and everybody who does have powers, they are either like elites or they're just kind of like common people, but they see people being powerless as a disease, basically. And so he's trying to rid his land of disease. She is one of those people that does not have powers, or so we think. She'll probably end up having powers at some point, but like, that's the general gist. And there's also these like games that people will vote people in for to go and play. So she ends up getting voted to go and do these games as a powerless person. And so it becomes a little bit more difficult to win the challenge. Okay, they're called the Purging Trials. It was on the back of the book. They're called the Purging Trials, and they're just to show off the people's powers, which she does not have. So that makes it a little bit more difficult for her. But again, really enjoyed it. It was just kind of like the writing at the beginning that kind of got iffy for me. But other than that, very, very good. All right, and the last one here, I have Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. I ended up rating this 4 stars, I think. I enjoyed it. It was an ex-boyfriend's dad. romance, which like really again is not my cup of tea. Like I like my romances a little bit sweeter than that, but I genuinely I liked Pike. Okay, I didn't have any issues with Pike. It was just the fact that he was her ex-boyfriend's dad and they met when her and her boyfriend were together. But like, again, I love Penelope Douglas's writing. Their relationship was believable. I liked their chemistry, but it was just, yeah. All right, and I'm going to quickly go through my TBR just because I don't know what any of these books are about, but I'm going to tell you what I want to read this month. All right, so there are a ton of books that I want to read this month for videos, so I'm not going to pull those out just because I don't want it to be too repetitive. So I'm just going to give you guys the mood reads that I want to read this month. What is this head doing? All right, so number one, I have A Not So Meet Cute by Megan Quinn. I have no idea what it's about, but I say this all the time. I talk about this book because I didn't realize this when I bought it, but there's like artwork in here and I'm super excited to read this. I kind of want to start this tonight, like on my Kindle. So we'll see, because I might do that. Then I also want to read Indigo Ridge, which is a part of the Eden series. I've heard a lot of people talking about this series. I have no idea what it's about, but I heard that somebody was saying how it kind of gives like Yellowstone. And if that's the case, I'm really excited about it because I genuinely love Yellowstone, but I have no idea what it's about other than that. Apparently it's like small town romances. Then I want to get through the last two books in my Frida McFadden collection right now. I need to go through and order the rest of her books, which she has. I looked this up. You'll see this in one of my vlogs, but she has 21 books currently out. 3 of them are like literary fiction, but the rest of them are thriller. I have like 7 of her thrillers and I want to get I have 9 of her thrillers, I think. Yeah, I have 9 of her thrillers, so I need to get the other 12. But these are the 2 ones that I want to read and like finish this month. Then I also want to read All I Want by J. Daniels. I read the first one. Obviously, I talked about it in this video. And this is the second one. I have no idea what it's about. I forgot like the description for like the tropes. She told me what the tropes were, but I just can't remember what they are now. So I wanna pick this one up as well. Then I have Second Chance Vacation by Nicole Ryan. And I also want to get to the second one, which is Mostly Loathing You. This one is about a couple who are broken up and they end up accidentally going on vacation together with their friend group. They have no idea that each other is going until they get there. And it's like, oh my gosh, hey, you're here too. Interesting. And so they end up also having to share a room, I believe, which is like, if y'all know me, that is my favorite freaking trope ever. I've started it. I'm like 10% into it, so I'm excited to finish it. Then I also want to read Funny Feelings by Tara DeWitt. Again, I have no idea what it's about. Apparently it has to do with 2 comedians though, because I've heard a couple of things about it. I really want to read this though. I'm hoping that it's going to be funny. I'm assuming it's going to be funny and I want to get to soon. Now I want to pick this up too tonight. I don't know. We'll see. And then last but not least for my mood reads of the month is going to be Lotus by Jennifer Hartman. This is the second book after Still Beating, and everybody was saying how this one is not as sad, but it follows kind of like in the same world with the same group of characters. So I'm hoping that it's good. And then there's also one that has to do with like a really important character in Still Beating. She has her own book, which I need to figure out which one that is. Bestie Bailey told me about that, and I really want to read it now because that storyline genuinely intrigues me. That was my wrap up and TBR for January and February. I hope you guys enjoyed. I read so much in January and I'm super excited to see what I do in February if I can keep up this good streak. My goal is 200 books this year, and that sounds insane saying it out loud, but I really hope that I can reach it. So I hope doing like monthly readathons will allow that to happen. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to find me anywhere else on the internet, I'll put all the links in the description. I also, you guys, I have memberships open on my channel. If you guys want to subscribe to the memberships, I think there's like different tiers. I have access to like early uploads of videos or just like member only videos, which I find so freaking cool because it's kind of like my own little like Patreon, except it's all in the same place. So if you guys want to join that, I would take a look at it on my profile. Yeah, that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.